guys. So, another day, another book review, and in this case, I'm reviewing Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson. And I have to say, it was an awesome book. It was amazing. I enjoyed reading about all the characters, and I have to say, if anyone is wondering who the main character is, I'm quite certain. For one, there's three main characters: Dalinar, Shallan, and Kaladin. Of that, I am completely certain, and I am a-okay with that. I think they're a power trio. I think they're the people who you definitely, like, they should definitely be, like, they're the best people to start out with this series. And honestly, they're probably, like, the main characters in the series. Because the thing is, like, they're the power characters. They're the people who, like, are probably the most influential of the Stormlight Chronicles so far. We'll wait for book 4 and we'll see how I feel about saying that later. Anyway, so, highlights. Well, we've got Dalinar. A good portion of this series, of this book, is basically spent a lot on Dalinar. And Dalinar is his past is very incredible. It goes to show that anybody can change from the person that they were. It's a good redemption arc, and I like that Oathbringer is a redemption arc. And I can't quite place all of the influences, Brandon's philosophical and maybe even some religious influences as well, that are in Oathbringer because of the redemption arc. Because the fact of the matter is that there's so many, like, and this is a good book to come out at this time where so many people are so, nobody can change, nothing can be this way, everything is just going to be like this, that person's always a terrible person. And then you have Brandon Sanderson writing Oathbringer coming out. Guys, hold on. You could be just as wrong as the person you're accusing of being wrong, or a terrible person, ever, which is a fun part about Oathbringer that I absolutely loved reading. But also, you can change as a person. People change. Ideologies are fluid in people. They grow, they mature, and honestly, in many cases, like, I mean, I read about what the man Dalinar has become, and read about his past self, and he has a lot of consistencies in his past self as far as certain opinions and, like, just character consistencies, if you will, where he's just very, like, stern and is able to actually extend, like, that hand of mercy. He can do it. He can stop killing for a moment to extend that mercy and overcome the thrill. And I have to say, the thrill is very interesting as an entity. I mean, you find out at the end of the book that the thrill that the Alethi, like, revere is part of the passions. It's one of odium. And the fun thing is you actually turn, like, if you the more you read this book, the more you, like, you're introduced to odium as this very reasonable, very almost compassionate character, and then you read more about what Venli's going through and going, he's not as compassionate as he thinks he is. He is as compassionate as he thinks he is, and in all honesty, he has allowed his passions to rule him to the point where nothing else matters but his opinion of how he thinks the world should look. And all the little people that help him get there are little expendables. That's fun. That's fun. It's very interesting. It's contrasting viewpoints, because Odium is presenting himself as one thing to Dalinar, and he's presenting himself as another thing to Venli. Like, Venli is, and I love Venli. Venli is Eshonai's sister. She is the Parshwoman who basically restarted all of this, and now she's facing the consequences of her actions, but is also being protected by what I would consider as a remnant of her sister. So it's interesting on that front as well. And anyway, but it's fun. It's fun. It's a good I love their character arcs, Venli's character arcs, as a contrast to Dalinar's, because it's very pointed. It's very good. And then you have Szeth, who also has a contrasting character arc that's different than Dalinar's. It's actually, I like them as a power trio almost, as far as like who is going to end up being like the power trio, and I really do think it's going to be Dalinar, Venli, and Szeth, as far as like who's going to be grouped together. Those are the big guys. Those are the guys who are really going to stand out the most, I feel. And then there's Lift, who I think Lift is a free spirit, and I had that impression in the second book when I first met her, and now I'm definitely kind of very much entrenched in the opinion that Lift is her own person, and she's an edge dancer. I've not read an edge dancer yet. I'm going to eventually, but I do have a lot of other things that I need to read, and honestly, I'm still doing writing, so yeah. I've got other things to do, so I haven't quite gotten to the point where I can read Edge Dancer yet. Anyway, so yeah, no, Lift is a very interesting, like, free spirit. So she's kind of like on the outside, and we basically see her with Dalinar helping, and she's helping Dalinar deal with all of this. But you have Szeth, who becomes a Radiant, and his path to becoming a Radiant is so contrast to Dalinar. Like, he is a man whose past is just as bloody as Dalinar's, and almost has like a personal effect on like Dalinar's past as well. But Dalinar can extend that forgiveness, especially at the end when he takes his pain back from Odium, if you will, and says, you cannot have my pain, it's mine, and it's mine, it's shaped me, it's made me, it's formed me, it's forged me, and you can't have it. So there. So, but that was an interesting arc. It was a very interesting thing that I got to witness as the old unfolding of the end goes. And sometimes Brandon Sanderson can definitely drone on and on with other characters, and I started checking out with Shallan and Adolin, and sometimes Yasna, because Yasna is a very stoic character, and it's hard to read her from her point of view. And Yasna's fun. Yasna, in case anyone doesn't know this, Yasna comes back and she rejoins them, and does stuff, and she like takes her place as Shallan's teacher again, and Shallan's having issues with that because now she has to be like the good little ward, and she doesn't want to be the good little ward anymore because she's experienced things in life now. And then Yasna's like, yes, but I've still been a Radiant longer than you have. So that was fun. So like all of these like lovely, amazing things is fun. Now, I've talked about that. These are like the big main points. Some of them I feel like are just Elhokar dying. It hit me. It really was, because you were just like, you felt like what Kaladin felt. You were just like, oh man, you're so close. Aswaden being like this evil person who has given herself over to the passions. Saw that one coming. Definitely saw that one coming. Like, I think Brandon Sanderson kind of foreshadowed that one to death, to the point where he made that pretty obvious. So yeah, no, that was pretty obvious. When we got to that point, we were either not going to find Aswaden alive and the son alive. Thankfully, we found his son alive, and at the end of the book, he's back together. But like, you know, it's again, it's one of those things where I was just kind of like, it was either going to end two ways with this one, and it ended kind of almost in the middle, basically. So I mean, I was right both ways. So I mean, that I'll give Brandon Sanderson that. He will put you in this position where it's like, it's either going to be this or this, and then he's like, it can be both, and you're like, you're right, it can be both. Sigh. So we have that, and so that was with Elokar, and it's okay. Who didn't know Moash wasn't going to kill Elokar? I mean, who didn't know? Anyone? Because I sure as hell did. I mean, that was another thing that he's been foreshadowing this since the second book. Elokar was not going to survive this book. He wasn't going to survive the series. And which also brings another point. We now have the first, I should say, minor or major side character, if you will. We have the first major side character death. Elokar is dead. He has done this. Somebody that, like, he is an actual character that you get to know, and Brandon Sanderson has killed him. Guess what that means? Because when an author starts killing characters, basically, all of the main characters are now going to start coming up for grabs. They're going to start dying, and he's killed a couple of people. We don't know what happened to Dre yet. I think it's Dre. We don't know what happened to the two people in Kholinar yet. Kholinar? In Kholinar's capital city. I don't remember the name. They said it like a couple of times, but I don't really remember it. Anyway, so we don't know what happened to them. But yeah, lots of people. I think we're gearing up for the series to start actually having major deaths now. Whether or not Dalinar is going to be one of them, I don't think so. I think he's somebody who he has too much to learn and do as a character to die yet. I think he's still important enough to the plot to where Brandon Sanderson is not going to waste him. Excuse me. I'm not sure about Adolin. I don't know about Adolin yet. I think Brandon Sanderson is going to come to the point where he might be able to, like, to where he might, like, make a point of, you can bring the shard blades back. You can bring them back. They will come back. You can bring them back, sort of thing. And if that's the case, then Adolin has a future. Which, by the way, guys, guess what? Shallan and Adolin married. That Shallan Kaladin ship, it sailed. It went bye-bye. Shallan and Kaladin ain't happening. Which is great. I like that kind of acceptance thing where Kaladin was like, it's never really much of a contest, and that's okay. And he didn't have any problem with it, which is fine. Let me finish talking about Adolin. So, I remember reading a review about this book, concerning, like, Dalinar dealing with Adolin, or Adolin killing Sadius, that's how they say it in the audiobook. And it was interesting. It was interesting. I thought it was funny that Dalinar was like, okay, we can do something about this, and Adolin's like, no, I'm not being, because he was presented with this, he finally, like, came clean when Dalinar was like, I'm gonna make you king, and Adolin's like, no, you're not. You are not making me king. And so, they made Yasna queen, which is fine. I think she was. I mean, come to find out, like here's a fun little tidbit. Yasna's older. Yasna was older than Elhokar. Why wasn't Yasna queen? Because I think like the point there is that they're a very patriarchal society in the sense of their hand downs. Bright ladies don't technically inherit anything unless there's like nothing else. And really what happened was Yasna became queen. so that was fun. That was fun. I was kind of excited about that because I was just like, yep, Yasna probably was going to become queen eventually. Who didn't see that one? Again, it's on the category of who didn't see that one coming. Now, here's like the other part that I don't know if anybody's noticed this, but while Kaladin and the others were in Shadesmar, just so you all know, they crossed into Shadesmar without meaning to, and they got stuck, and they had to like do a thing. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, so they're in Shadesmar. They don't know what to do. They're kind of stuck. And Kaladin starts, like, actually getting to know Sylfrena. Sylfrena, yeah. Anyway, and so, on kind of like an almost intimate level, because here in this world, he can actually touch her. Like, he can touch her as much as I can touch this tree. Like, they like, she is able to physically connect with him in a way that, like, she can't do that in the real world. Or in the physical world. But, you also learn closer to when they start getting out of it that they have a special bond. They have a different bond than other Radiants and their Spren do. Like, that's kind of like a little tidbit that I noticed there, and I'm just kind of sitting here going, they have a bond? A strange bond? How? How do they have this strange bond? And then you kind of have like, okay, you know how there's moments in literature where you start picking out who's actually, like, the further you get along, and it's typically in big series like this that actually don't ignore romance as being a thing, and you start like picking things out with who an end game is going to be for a particular character, and then you realize it might be somebody that you would have originally overlooked. And I think Brandon Sanderson might be making that case where Syl and Kaladin form a romantic bond together, and I have no idea how they do that. Because good lord, if that didn't work out, that would be a little awkward. But with that being said, it's interesting, and like, well, because my boyfriend listened to Words of Radiance. He listened to Words of Radiance, and there were several moments in Words of Radiance where I was just like I was jarred, because I was starting to, like, because when you reread something, you start analyzing it more, like you start actually, like, you know, thinking about what you just read, and it just became more and more apparent how much of a wife Syl kind of is to him, like, to the point where I'm just kind of like, I mean, if it weren't for the fact that you were basically the world's version of a fairy that has no substance, I mean, you act like his wife. People would, like, actually mistake you two for being married. And so, like, you know, I'm sitting, like, it hit me there, listening to a particular scene in Words of Radiance again. And then I'm reading, and then shortly afterwards, I started getting into the stuff in Shadesmar, and I'm just like, and I'm just like, I'm sitting here, I'm reading this, and I'm just like, not the correct page, by the way. This is not quite where it is. Anyway. But I really am. I'm reading this, and I'm just like sitting here thinking, wait a minute. Again, it's one of these things where just kind of like, I could be completely wrong. I really could. I could be completely wrong. Could just be something that, like, my little fangirl mind goes and just like, no, Kaladin, I want you to be with somebody. But I didn't know Shallan and Adolin were going to definitely, like, that was, like, set in stone. I suspected it would be, but I didn't know for certain that it was set in stone until the end of the book. This is something, again, that I had a complete and total, like, wait a minute moment. Like, wow, trying to finish this. So there's that. It's interesting, and I'm very interested to see if he goes there, because that would be interesting. That would be like the whole in the new Blade Runner movie, in Blade Runner 2029. I think that's it. In the new Blade Runner movie, the guy fell in love with his house. Literally, he fell in love with his house. His house was a hologram. Yep, with personality. So, I mean, don't put it past science. Don't put it past science fiction and fantasy writers to really, like, those are they who are experienced, to really make you go, okay. I can actually kind of support that. So, we'll see where this goes. We will see where this goes. I, for one, am pretty excited to see if he does actually take that plunge, and if he does, that is a-okay. I'm not going to bat an eye at it, because honestly, I would have been like, yes, I saw it in book 3 while I was reading book 3 and re-listening to book 2, but I mean, details. Anyway, so as far as rating goes, I'm gonna give this 5 out of 5 star rating. I really enjoyed this book, and honestly, this is the book that did not take me several months to read of his. I actually sat down and just started devouring it, and have, like, and the more I read of his book works, the more I have a very huge appreciation for the novels that he's written. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I've been rambling on about this, gushing how awesome and all the things that I need to talk about, and I haven't talked about everything that I wanted to talk about on this book. There's not enough time on YouTube to do that. Excuse me. And it's late at night, and I gotta go to bed and, get up for work and stuff like that. So anyway, yes, it's been over 20 minutes now. I need to go to bed, and if you have anything else you'd like to add, any, like, extra tidbits that you noticed in the book, comment below and we'll talk about it. Have a good night.